Hey, future Broncos. On behalf of Project Caminos, welcome back to another episode of Bronco Scoop. My name is Daisy Lemos. I'm a fourth-year architecture major here at Cal Poly Pomona and also student assistant of Project Caminos. Thank you so much for joining us on this new episode of Season 3. On today's episode, I will be giving you the scoop on what it's like to be a mechanical engineering major at Cal Poly Pomona. I have two very special guests joining us today in order to talk about everything mechanical engineering related. So thank you so much for joining us today. Could you both please introduce yourselves and your role at Cal Poly Pomona?
Hi, I'm Paul Nissenson. I'm a professor here in the mechanical engineering department.
And my name is Ana Jurado. I'm a third-year mechanical engineering student with a minor in regenerative studies and energy engineering.
So mechanical engineering is a major within the College of Engineering. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about the college and specifically what the major focuses on?
Sure. So the College of Engineering encompasses 7 different engineering departments. So mechanical engineering, where I come from and Anna comes from, civil engineering, aerospace engineering, electrical and computer engineering, electromechanical engineering technology, chemical and materials engineering, and industrial and manufacturing engineering. And there's 11 different bachelor's degrees or programs that you could pursue. Mechanical engineering is probably the broadest of all of the of all the engineering majors. Anyone who's in the program, I'm sure as Anna can tell you, you'll learn about a lot of different topics. You'll learn about, for example, dynamics. So you'll learn how you can, or mechanics, where you can learn how you can make devices that operate in a specific way, like a piston cylinder going up and down in a car. You can learn about materials and making sure that you select the right material so it doesn't break under given stresses. Fluid mechanics, which is my background or my expertise, is moving fluid from one place to another, like oil or air or water. We also have thermodynamics, so how you convert energy from one form to another or move energy from one place to another. We have control systems, which is trying to make devices operate within like specific parameters. So, maybe like a self-driving car would be a good example. There's other areas as well, but I think that covers most of what mechanical engineering is about. I don't know if Anna has any other courses that she took or any other topics that.
Yeah, pretty much that covers it. I think the only thing that we also get into a little bit is manufacturing processes. So we learn about the manufacturing things, how that goes on. But yeah, we learn everything, it feels like.
You get lots of math and physics and chemistry and other stuff along the way too.
Yep.
So what can first-year freshmen and transfer students expect their first year to be like? Are they involved in any labs or any hands-on courses that you guys can share?
Yeah, I can talk about this. So definitely your first year, you get right into it. The first class that you take is a CAD class. So you learn SolidWorks, which is a program that we use to like make our models online. And it is by far one of the coolest classes ever. It's really, really exciting that literally like your first semester, you could be taking that class. And that kind of just like sets you off for the rest of the years that you'll be here. So yeah, like right off the bat, you'll be taking labs as well. So yeah, you really do get to have the hands-on experience pretty much as soon as you start the major here.
Yeah, so when did you know what career or major you wanted for yourself?
So I could speak about the career, and then probably Anna could talk about the major since she's a little closer to that. So for a career, I was very fortunate that I knew fairly early on, way back in high school, that I wanted to teach, or at least I really liked teaching. And you have to have college degrees to teach. So I didn't know if I wanted to teach at high school, or back then I couldn't even imagine teaching at a university. But so, I got my bachelor's degree, and I thought, maybe if I wanted to teach at a university one day, I need advanced degrees. So I got my master's and PhD, and fortunately I was able to come here to Cal Poly Pomona, where my primary job is teaching. And I've been here for 11 years doing that.
So what about the major, Anna? When did you know that you wanted to study in mechanical engineering at Cal Poly? Come on.
Yeah. So first, I actually wanted to come in as an aerospace. A lot of people seem to have that path. When I was younger, in like sixth grade, seventh grade, I did like a rocket competition, the kind of like paper rocket you put on a PVC pipe and then you attach it to a water bottle and then you step on it and it flies. I did one of those with a couple of my friends and we actually ended up winning the competition, and that like really got me into like rockets. I thought that's what I was going to do for sure. My teacher also gave me this book called October Sky, which is basically the story of a group of boys who live in like a coal mining town, and like that's what their future is supposed to be. But then they they start building rockets for fun, and then they end up working at like NASA and a bunch of like really cool places. So I was all pumped for aerospace. I was like, yeah, this is it. And then when I got to like high school and like actually deciding my majors, I realized that there was like more engineering fields. Like I really thought that it was just like aerospace and like that was it. So then I started to like ask around and kind of see what the other majors offered, and like mechanical really spoke to me because of how broad it is. Because I realized that I could do mechanical, and maybe in the future if I really wanted to I could also do something in the aerospace field. But the mechanical degree itself is so valuable because of all the things that you can do with it. Like all the classes that we take and stuff, they open a lot of doors in industries. So that is how I ended up deciding on mechanical. And Cowboy Pomona was just a very easy choice because the hands-on, like learn by doing, those are the things that people are looking for after you graduate. And it was just, I really felt like I could see myself here like succeed, you know.
And I would just also mention that, aerospace and mechanical engineering there's so much overlap between those two majors that many universities actually combine them into a single department. So UC Irvine, where I came from, they have a mechanical and aerospace engineering department. Here we just have them separated. But yeah, a lot of the mechanical is much more broad, as Anna was mentioning, but aerospace, they tend to focus a lot more on aircraft and spacecraft. But I mean, if you get a degree in mechanical engineering, you can work in aerospace. And if you get an aerospace engineering degree, you can work in fields that mechanical engineers work in as well.
Wow. Engineering is so complicated because like I study architecture, so I just know there are engineers that do like every single part of like a building, but there's so like broad, like there's so many like fields that are within the engineering that you like, I don't know, that I like wouldn't even consider. I guess it's the same for architecture. Like there's probably things that people don't consider that like because I study it, I'm like, oh, like I'll notice like the little stuff. So yeah.
If you ever go to a major building site, a major construction site, they'll often have a big billboard that will list the different types of engineering firms that are out there. And you'll see civil engineers might be there, mechanical engineers and electrical engineers, and all of them specialize in doing, certain parts of that building.
Yeah. So this question is for Dr. Paul. So you started a podcast called The Engineering Student Experience in 2018. What was the goal of the podcast and who can tune in?
Yeah, so anyone can, get your cell phone out. I don't know if it's going to show through anyways, get your cell phone out and open your favorite podcast app. And if you just search for, the Engineering Student Experience, it's a little gear icon with a little mortarboard graduation hat in the middle. You can find it there, or it's also on YouTube. And the reason I even thought about starting it was, I joined Cal Poly Pomona in 2011, and I kept finding myself every year answering the same questions over and over and over from students who were I thought about these questions, long ago, and they seem obvious to me now, but students are thinking about them for the first time. So for example, what is graduate school? What do you even do in graduate school? How do I get an internship? What's it like to work in that field or that field? And I thought, hey, it would be great if I could just make a resource that I could just say, hey, no, go, like, instead of me talking to them for 20 minutes or whatever, which I'm happy to do, but go listen to that first. And if you have more questions, come ask me about it then. And around that time, the mid 2010s or so, podcasts really started taking off. Nowadays, it seems like everyone has a podcast, but back then, it was a little less common. And I thought, oh, this might be an interesting way to relay this kind of information. Yeah, we just started in 2018. And the whole purpose of the podcast is it's really targeting high school students who might have no idea what engineering is about and want to learn some basics about engineering. So we have episodes on like, what is mechanical engineering? What is aerospace engineering? Where I talk with faculty who explain what their fields are like. I also have episodes where I talk with people in industry and they talk about what their day-to-day work is like. So the latest episode that we released was about an industry that I hadn't even heard of, called the food retailing industry, where I talked with a couple of practicing engineers from a nearby company called Hussmann. And they make, you've seen their products for sure, because if you ever go into a supermarket or a 7-Eleven or whatever, and you see food display cases, they probably made them. So they talk about, what they do day to day. And so it's for those high school students who want to have a better idea of what engineering is about, but also for current engineering students who may want to know, like, hey, what is graduate school, or what's it like to work in these different fields as they're beginning to think about what they're going to do for a career.
Yeah, so part of my research for this episode was listening to the podcast. So I listened to the food industry one, and I was like so into it. I was like so amazed that it was like so like amazing to me, like how they were explaining to it, how everything that has to do with like just the food industry. But I listened to the civil engineering one because we work with civil engineers, but we have this ongoing this ongoing joke in the architecture department that we don't know what the civil engineers do. We know what the structural engineers do. We know what the electrical does, the mechanical too, and the plumbing and everything. But the civil engineers were like, I don't know exactly what they do, until I started working in an office. And then I was like, oh, this is like what a civil engineer kind of does. But I was listening to the episode and I was like, oh, they do everything. I was like, that's why they don't do like one specific thing. I was like, because everything falls under civil engineering. But it's a really good podcast, and it's really, I think it's open for like anybody that really wants to learn more about engineering.
Yeah, I've learned so much going through this process. I'm sure as you're developing these podcasts, and it's been a really interesting journey. And I am, as I go along, I'm trying to make them more and more appeal to more and more people who might just want to have a better idea of what engineers do. When I was in high school, we didn't have an engineering class. I knew what physics was. I had a physics class. I knew what math was. I had math classes, but I had no idea what an engineer did. And I even had an uncle who was an engineer, a practicing engineer. And it would have been neat to have had a resource like this back then.
We have a new class of Broncos joining us this fall. Do you have any recommendations for freshmen to take advantage of their first semester? And what about transfer students?
I thought about this. I was like, what would I wish I had done my first year?
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that I would say is like join a club, even if it's not like a project-based club because you don't have the time or whatever, just any club that's remotely related to engineering. Because in the club, you get to meet a lot of people, and you get to, I find it all the time. You meet people in the club who are in the same classes as you. So then you start making study groups, which I think are very, very important for like any class whatsoever. You kind of, being part of the club kind of starts helping you create that like support system that I think is very, very important in order to like complete every semester, literally. So I would say that. And then the other thing I would also say is take advantage of office hours. I wish I had done that my first year. It can be, it can be very, very intimidating. Like, let's be honest, it can be very scary to go to a professor's office hours and just knock in there and ask them something. But that's also part of creating that support system. You start creating relationships with professors that can last your 4 years here. And then you kind of create that support system with people who have like a lot of people, a lot of professors have been in industry, so maybe you can get opportunities to that, or just guidance, honestly, which is something that's very valuable. So that's what I would say I would do if I was a freshman or a transfer student. There's the same thing, you know, you're coming to a new campus, you don't know anyone here, or maybe you know a couple people that you went to high school or community college with. So I think those would be the biggest things that I would say to do.
Yeah, those are great recommendations.
Yeah, one thing I would say is that I think it can be great to meet people early on. The one thing I would be that we usually caution students against is joining too many clubs. Whenever you have a major transition in life, it's going to take some time to get used to the new rhythms of whatever scenario you're in. So if you're going from high school, you have a certain rhythm you've built up over 4 years, and now you're going to college with drastically different, wildly different way of having classes. So if I have in high school, you might have like 7 classes or something, or 6 or 7 classes. If you try to do 6 or 7 classes at a university, some people can do it, but especially for engineering, you're setting yourself up for failure potentially. You're going to spread yourself out too thin. And if you join 5 clubs your first semester, you're going to spread yourself out too thin probably, and you're going to be sacrificing your schoolwork. So just be mindful that there's going to be a transition period when you first going from a community college to Cal Poly Pomona probably wouldn't be as severe as going from high school to Cal Poly Pomona. But yeah, just always be self-aware, or try to be as self-aware as possible. And we're here everyone's coming to college to ultimately get a degree, right? In addition to life experiences and hopefully some friendships that will last you a lifetime and everything. Actually, sorry, just to plug my own podcast again here. I actually have episodes on what it's like to be a transfer student, and also what it's like to be a first-time freshman, where I also interview students who at that time are going through the process of changing, or they're in the process of just joining the university from either community college or high school.
Well, that's great. If
Yeah.
we have transfer students or freshmen listening that want to join, they can go listen to that episode and get even more info. That's good. So Anna, what does a current week look like for you as a mechanical engineering student this semester?
Okay, I want to preface this by saying that this specific semester I'm taking a lot of units, and also it's the end of the semester, so everything is happening, everything is due, everything needs to get done. So it's very, very busy, to say the least. So I have classes 5 days a week. I'm here Monday through Friday, which I think is very common for engineering, but some people are able to sneak it like just Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday. But I'm here every single day. I have class in the morning, Monday, and then I'm part of a project team. So I stay for that afterwards. And then I have class at night for Mondays and Wednesdays. So anytime I can get in between the project and the class, I do homework, I study, I do whatever I can, take advantage of every single minute. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have class all day from 8 to 5. So I'm just in class all day, except during U hour, right? Which is the hour where the university doesn't schedule as many classes. So a lot of the club meetings happen at that time. So I try to go as much as I can to all the club meetings, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Wednesday, I also have class in the morning and then at night, but then I don't have anything between the two. So if I have any meetings, they're usually at that time, or if not, I'm studying and doing homework and doing everything I can to get things done. And then Thursday is the same as Tuesday. And then Friday, I have class in the morning and then I work on my project, the project that I'm part of. And then I also have meetings usually, and then go home, which is Friday's a good day for me. And then Saturday, I also come here for the project. So basically we have a work day on Saturday as well. And that's it. So the rest of the time, I'm just studying, doing homework, trying to get everything done. If I can, I try to go to office hours whenever my professors are available, even if it's just to say hi. And then, yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like.
And as a pro.
Yeah. Wait, what project are you working on, if you could share with us?
Yeah, I'm part of the Northrop Grumman collaboration project. So it's a project that's sponsored by Northrop Grumman, obviously. Basically, Northrop is the customer and we as the team are the contractor. So they give us kind of it's a mission that they want us to do. Basically, we have a hiker that's injured and we have to recover them. So we have a unmanned aerial vehicle and then an unmanned ground vehicle, and it's a collaboration with Cal Poly SLO as well. So they have a vehicle. So basically, we all work together to save the hiker and get him to safety and hopefully make it all happen.
Oh. And what kind of classes are you taking? Are they like mainly labs, or you said you were a third year, correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in my fourth year, so I only take architecture classes now. Are you kind of in the same situation?
Yeah, pretty much all of my classes are ME classes except for two. I'm taking one of the major required classes that we need to take is from the industrial manufacturing engineering department. So it's about like basically it teaches you how to make decisions when it comes to choosing projects and choosing equipment, making the most economical decisions. And then I'm also taking a physics class for the energy engineering minor. So it's basically like physics but focused on energy. So yeah, all of my other classes are ME classes, and I do have two labs this semester. One of them is also like a project-based lab, so I have a project going for that as well. So yeah, that's what.
And Dr. Paul, if I could ask, what kind of classes are you teaching this semester?
So this particular semester, I'm actually not teaching too many classes because I'm also the associate chair of the department, which is a semi-administrative position. So I get a little bit of time that I don't time off from my teaching load to do administrative work. But I'm teaching an air pollution class, which is one field that a lot of mechanical engineering students don't get a lot of exposure to in their regular classwork. Usually we care about trying to make engines more efficient. We don't care about what comes out the tailpipe. But but my class is all about that, trying to understand how we can make sure we have cleaner air to breathe and all the technology and regulations that go into that. I'm also an advisor for some students at toward the end of their time here at Cal Poly Pomona. They have to do what's called a senior design project. So they spend a whole year working with an advisor. And so I have 8 students working with me, and they are trying to design and build what's called a swamp cooler. Basically, it's an evaporative cooler. It works on the same principle, whereas if it's a hot, dry day and you get your arm wet and you have air blow over it, it feels very cold. It works on that same kind of principle. Yeah, normally though I teach like fluid mechanics courses. So we teach students about how to get fluids from one place to another, how to get water from, let's say, I don't know, a lake to a tank somewhere else, or maybe inside a chemical plant, we need to move chemicals from one area to another to undergo some process. What are the equations that will allow us to help design and the right, how to find the right size pipe and the right size pump and the right size storage tank and things like that.
Well, there you go. If anybody wants to take any of your classes, now they know.
Yeah.
So, do you have any favorite courses that you've taken, Anna?
That's hard. I've taken a lot. I will say definitely like the SolidWorks class was one of my favorite classes. It was so much fun. It was so cool to like be able to think of something and put it in the computer and see it and move it and stuff. So that's one of my favorites. And I would also say we took an intro to design class. I took it last spring. So it was still during the virtual, but even still as like with the virtual, my professor really, we were still able to like learn by doing, like we had projects that we did a lot of SolidWorks, obviously because that was the easiest, because we were online, but we also did like hands-on projects, like everybody built their own little thing, and it was just really cool to go through the design process with a group, because it was a group project too. So you get an experience of working in teams to accomplish a singular goal, and you get a lot of different opinions and ideas and stuff, and it was really cool to see it all come together in the end, like our design actually built. So I really like that class. I thought it was one of my favorite classes. Yeah.
So, as a first generation student, there were a few things that I learned my first year. The two things that stand out for me are the syllabus and office hours. So, Dr. Paul, do you use a syllabus, or can you explain what it is, and what advice do you have for students about office hours? Because as Anna shared, it can be a little bit scary to go knocking on your professor's door.
Yeah, and those are really good questions, because these are things that students may not know about in high school. I mean, we're so used, Anna and I, and well, you also, Daisy, are so used to these terms that and these ideas that incoming students might not think about, but they're really important. So yeah, syllabus is very simple. I like to think of it as kind of like a unofficial contract that I have with my students, that, hey, it's a document that says, here is my grading policy. You're going to have this many quizzes. They're going to be, roughly on these dates and we're going to cover these topics, and I'm going to weight the quizzes with this weighting and the final exam with this weighting, and we're going to have homework assignments, and here are my office hour policies and various other policies of the class. And I usually go over the syllabus on the first day of class with my students, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And we're supposed to actually provide a syllabus to our students. If you don't have a syllabus, that's you make sure you ask the instructor for one. That's usually something given on the first day, or sometimes you'll even get an email from the instructor before the class even starts, or telling you that the syllabus is now available. For office hours, faculty are also required to have a certain number of office hours a week. So I have to have 4 office hours a week. I have half online, half in person in my office, where I'm recording this now. I just had an office hour just before recording this podcast, actually. And that's an opportunity, as Anna was mentioning, to come in and ask questions about the course material, or you could just ask about what it's like to work in a particular industry, or if you want more details about the subject that aren't specifically related to how to solve a homework problem. That's what the office hours are there for.
Yeah. So Anna, do you have any tips or best practices when it comes to office hours or syllabus for incoming students?
Yeah, definitely. First thing I do every single time I get a syllabus is annotate it. I go down with a highlighter, highlight all the important dates, write any notes if I have any questions, so that I can take it to office hours and ask. But definitely, the syllabus is I don't want to say, it's very important. It's very, very important. Definitely read it. If you have any questions on it, go ask, because Dr. Nissenson said, it's basically the contract of the class. So you have to know what's happening. You have to have an idea of what's going on. So I would definitely say that. And as to office hours, definitely check the time first to make sure that you don't show up and it's the wrong time. The ME department, actually, this is one thing I absolutely love, is we have a Canvas course, right? And in there are the office hours of all the ME faculty. So you can go check, if you're going to a professor that maybe you had a class for last semester, but you don't know their office hours this year, you can go in and check that. So definitely check the time, and just be ready to talk to your professor. Don't go in there and wait for them to initiate the conversation, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's coming in. So have some questions. And like Dr. Nissenson said, it doesn't have to be related to the homework. I go to office hours sometimes just to say hi to my professors or ask them something that's completely unrelated. I've been going to Dr. Nissenson's office hours lately, and I just ask questions about things that I'm curious about, because they've been through the process, they've been through college, they've been through it, and they know what it's like. So they're also a resource in that sense. It doesn't have to always be related to the schoolwork and the homework.
Yeah, those are great tips. So how does the College of Engineering and Mechanical Engineering program prepare students for industry jobs or graduate programs?
So Anna's actually already mentioned these words a little while ago, but if you ever go to our website, or you take a tour of the campus, you're going to hear 2 phrases over and over and over, and it's going to be learn by doing and hands-on. So we have a lot of labs in our engineering programs, and our instructors really emphasize, or they usually typically emphasize the practical applications of whatever concepts they're teaching. They teach them through theory, but they also make sure they say, okay, this is how it's used in the real world. I went to UC Irvine, which is more focused on research. They have many undergraduates, of course, but has a much more research focus there. And they focus a lot more on the theory. And from what we've heard from people in industry, they really like Cal Poly Pomona graduates and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo graduates because we both get them really ready for industry. They're ready to go day one, whereas graduates from UCs tend to take a little bit longer because they don't have as much practical experience. But if you want to go to graduate school too, I mean, if you want, if you want to go for a master's or PhD, our program also will prepare you quite well for that.
So, is there any class that stands out that you've taken or that you've taught that has that emphasis on the learn by doing approach?
Yeah, all of them. Every lab I've taken. More specifically, this semester I'm taking machine design. So I'm taking machine design. It's a lab and lecture combo. So there is a lecture portion to it, and then there's a lab section for it. And that's the class that I'm doing. That it's just a project. So it's a semester-long project. That's what we're working on in the lab. So you very much get to learn by doing, because you're given an objective and a set of requirements, and then you have to design everything to make sure that it fits those requirements and it works, and it's something that your customer would want to buy from you. So yeah, it's definitely learn by doing. You work with a group, you do a lot of SolidWorks, you do a lot of building, a lot of testing, a lot of everything. So yeah, a lot of it, but pretty much all the labs are like that.
One thing I would add though, you can get a degree from any program, but ultimately it will be up to the student to go out and get the job. So one thing that can be very helpful is maybe after your third year or so, that you start looking for internships. You sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're not, but getting that experience actually working as a sort of an apprentice at a real company can be very valuable when you go out and actually try to get your career after you get your degree.
So Anna, what do you see yourself doing after you graduate from Cal Poly Pomona?
Tough one. I gotta graduate. Well, one of the things, so I had the opportunity to actually do research my second year. I did a project throughout the entire school year, and I really, really liked the experience. It's just another way to put what you've learned in the classrooms in practice, but I really, really enjoyed it, the whole process from the beginning to the end. So I'm hoping to go into graduate school after I graduate. That's kind of my plan, because it was just something that I really, really enjoyed. So hopefully that's where I'll be.
Yeah. So what resources do you encourage students to take advantage of early at Cal Poly Pomona, and what recommendations do you have for parents who are supporting their students through this journey?
Oh, this one's hard. Resources, I would definitely say your professors are a big one. Definitely the Career Center. They have a lot of events that they put together. Like Dr. Nissenson said, there's a lot of, like, getting an internship is very, very helpful. And there's a lot of career fairs that happen. Some are engineering specific career fairs. So you have a lot of companies. I've known a lot of friends who threw their resumes in the bag during those, and they got offers. Also, the clubs are a good way to kind of learn more about companies. They usually get industry reps to come by. Sometimes we take resumes too. So definitely career fair and your professors.
But one thing I will mention is that the university has all kinds of resources. They may not be easy to find sometimes, but the university has resources for almost anything you could ever need or want. The thing is, though, someone actually has to want to go out and seek them. And so sometimes people wait too late to seek them. So if you notice that there's some issue that you need help with, be proactive and go out and try to, if you go to some random office in the administrative building, it doesn't have to be even, or the student services building, it doesn't even have to be the right office. Just say, I need help with this, and they can help steer you to the right person to see. So yeah, it's almost anything you could ever need, any kind of service, there's someone on campus who can help provide that service probably.
Yeah. So the last question is, what is the funniest memory you have from Cal Poly Pomona?
Just so many memories, so many moments. It's also like a lot of them are probably online. Like a lot of my memories at least are online because yeah, most of my college experience has been online so far. But I would say overall, like every memory is good. Like I don't have any bad moments or anything. Like I love my time at CPP. I really, really do.
We have one of my, this is a bit of, I don't know if it's the funniest memory, but it's just one that is in my brain, so it must have meant something at the time. But we have a very active subreddit page. If you go to Reddit and you go to / Cal Poly Pomona, you can find it, and there's a lot of support there too. Where if you ask almost any question about anything, you'll almost instantly get an answer from another student. You should always cross-reference if that answer is actually right, but you usually get a pretty responsive answer. And so there used to be this game that students would play on campus where it was called the rock hunt, and they would have a painted rock that they would hide on campus, and then they'd show a picture kind of hinting at where the location was, and then people would go off and try to find it. If you found it, you would then go hide it somewhere else and take a picture of that new location, and so on for a while. And then eventually the rock stopped being found. And they called the rock Dwayne, because it took me a while to figure out this one, but it was Dwayne the Rock Johnson. And so I don't know, on the subreddit, I kept joking that I threw him away in a garbage can or something. And so one day, as I was just sitting in my office, I had my door open, and some student just walked by my office. I didn't even see who it was, but they just yelled into my office, "Where's Dwayne?" And, yeah, just something that stuck in my memory. So we do have lots of ways of interacting with each other. This was before the pandemic, by the way. Yeah. So, but there's lots of ways that you can become active on campus. It could be clubs, it could be interacting online through the subreddit, and I'm sure there's many Discord channels out there to help out with classes. So.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Join us every week for a new episode of Bronco Scoop. And for this week's episode, there's no question. Instead, I want to recommend you all to add the engineering student experience to your podcast list, as they will cover anything engineering related over there. Join us every week for a new episode of Bronco Scoop. Subscribe to our channel, CPP Access and Transition, or follow us on Spotify, Bronco Scoop, to never miss a scoop. Make sure to check out our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at CPP Caminos to keep yourself updated. If you have any questions or want to talk about anything Cal Poly Pomona related, email us at caminos@cpp.edu. Project Caminos Bronco Scoop is supported with funding from the Department of Education Hispanic Serving Institute grant and Cal Poly Pomona's Office of Student Success, Equity, and Innovation. Tune in for more.